Hello and welcome to the Publicly Challenged Podcast. I'm your host, Luke Oswald, and I hope you join me on my quest for knowledge to become a better hunter, angler, and forager. Stick with this, and who knows, maybe we will learn something together. So before we get to the show, I just want to talk about a few things. The first thing, I want to talk about initial Ascent packs. This isn't a promotion or anything like that. I honestly just want to say thank you to Joe and Dennis for donating a pack to my giveaway. I love their pack. I did an episode with them and talked about all the different things I use it for. I used it my entire hunting season, and I'm going to use it for my training. I just got a 6K bag that I'm going to use on my elk hunt this fall, and I truly think that it's an amazing, awesome American-made product. And if you're in the market for a pack, I sincerely say this, check them out because they're well worth it. So with that being said, check out Initial Ascent. Also, treelineacademy.net. Most comprehensive e-scouting course that you will ever take online. I don't know what I did before that, but I sure as heck know that I wasn't even close to being in the right direction. So treelineacademy.net. Use promo code PC2020. Save yourself 20% off on your sign up. And the last one's Basemap. Basemap's awesome. The price point is cheaper than all the other competitors out there. They've got newly updated offline maps, and on top of that, you can do all kinds of e-scouting, and they've got hunt data too, so you can compare draw units and all other kinds of awesome features. Give them a chance, check them out. Sign up on the website, and use the promo code PC15. Save yourself 15% on the sign up for Basemap. Do that. I'm telling you. It's an awesome app. You're going to end up using it, and I guarantee you will like it. With that being said, let's get to the show. Okay, so I'm sitting here, and I am talking to James Jubran, and he has pretty cool business, and my kids are a big fan of it. And you want to go ahead and tell everybody about yourself and about it a little bit?
Okay, sure. So I'm James Jubran. I'm one of the co-owners of Smile Outside children's book. My brother Luke and I, we own the company together, and we started it about a year and a half ago now. And basically because my son, who's 5 now, didn't really have any books that I really liked regarding wildlife for his age group. So my brother and I were talking one day, and I didn't like one of the books that I was reading to my son at the time. So we kind of came up with a plan right then and there, and kind of just rolled out from there. He and I have been like huge into the outdoors, hunting and fishing our whole lives. Our parents introduced us from a very young age. So it's been a really important and integral part of our lives. And, you know, as my son's getting older now, I'm taking him out more and more, and it's really good to be able to introduce him to those things too. So the company is like a way that we can reach out to more people and more kids out there who do or do not have those same kind of opportunities. And one of the big things we try to do with the company is raise money for conservation. So a portion of each book sale goes to different conservation organizations that we partner up with.
No, it's pretty cool. I like the accuracy of the stories. I mean, I know it's only a kid's book, and it's, a few words per page, and it's, like a board type book, but it gets the right thought train, the right process, like antlers, for instance, people calling them horns or whatever, or it drives me nuts when there's books like that out there. So I understand that totally. Or you've got like a moose wearing pajamas and walking upright. And I'm just, to me, I'm always like, kids, this is just a story, right? Oh, and like, cause my oldest one, she'll be like, is there really, a moose walking around with pajamas in the forest, Dad? And I'm like, no, honey, not at all.
Yeah. I mean, we try really hard to be accurate as we can and still have it like be playful and friendly for the kids. It's one of my pet peeves is little inaccuracies. When it comes to wildlife in general, whether it's a kid's book or whether it's a movie, those things have always bugged me. And especially when kids are really young, I think they need to know like the truth. I just got to give them the truth.
Yeah, no, that's totally just accurate on that. I mean, a lot of the other books that I get them to, they've actually got, now that they're getting older, trying to get them into stuff to where they can identify things. And then there's actually sources cited in the back that you can kind of reference if you want to go deeper for them. I think that's totally awesome.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So kind of tell me a little bit about like how many books you guys got out now, because I know it started out with like 4 or 5. And then what are you guys up to now?
Just like you said, our first series, our Conservation 1 series, was 5 books. We released our second series this past August. So last year of 2020, we released our second series, which was a 3-book set about fish. And right now, actually, we're working on our next book, and it's actually going to be a single. It's going to be our first time putting out a single book by itself, and it's going to be it's a little bit different. It's still similar, but it's different. it's still got a conservation purpose, but it's different. Stay tuned for that one.
So can you give us any more hints than that?
If you like dogs, you'll like this book.
Okay. All right. Are we talking like field dogs or training or?
I'm not a Chihuahua kind of guy. Just put it that way.
Okay. All right. That's cool. Hopefully it's retrievers or something fun. But so let's kind of talk about like how'd you grow up? What'd you do? I mean, I'm pretty sure you're a transplant from the Midwest, aren't you?
No, actually, I was born here in Texas. Me and all my siblings were born here. We moved when I was, I think, 5. We spent a decade in California, and then another little over a decade I spent in Florida before moving back here. I guess back in 2009. So I've been here for a while now. But I've been everywhere, man.
I think it's funny that you told me you don't like the heat, but it seems like every state you've ever lived in is pretty warm.
That's probably why I don't like it.
Yeah, I guess.
Can't escape it.
I guess. So yeah, look, like, how did you grow up? Did you grow up in a hunting family? Were you hunting from a young age? What was that kind of like?
Yeah, my dad got my brother and I hunting. I From before I can remember, really. I don't think I really remember the first time I was out. I have some very young memories, but I don't know which one was the first. And then my brother and my 2 sisters, we'd go fishing out on the boat. We go for sunfish and catfish and some bass sometimes, all from very young ages. And that just continued through. When we moved to California, it was a little bit different. We changed from fishing panfish to going to like lakes that have been stocked for rainbow trout and catching a bunch of trout, still doing the hunting thing. And, eventually we got old enough, my brother and I, started doing things on our own, and we've expanded into a lot more big game hunting in the last maybe 10 years or so. And still in the bird hunting and fishing, but big game hunting has taken up a lot more of our energy.
So when you say big game hunting, are you talking like chasing elk or high country mule deer or like aoudad in West Texas? What are you going after?
A little bit of everything, really. I mean, a lot of whitetail hunting naturally, just because their abundance down here and in Florida also where we started hunting them. But we've chased elk, we've chased pronghorn, we've chased bears, we've chased a lot of different things. I shot actually a mouflon sheep on a public unit down here, I think 2 years ago. The archery equipment, that was pretty cool. It's an exotic sheep that is feral in some places.
Yep. No, I think it's pretty cool. Texas is such a different and diverse like ecosystem that it's able to host all these different exotic animals, and whenever they were brought there, I don't even know the story of each species, but it's pretty cool that they've thrived and flourished to the point where there is actually wild herds or whatever of all these different types of deer and animals. It's pretty neat.
Yeah, for sure. I've seen some weird things when I've been out on some of these public properties out here. Actually, one's like probably 30 minutes from Marble Falls, which you were talking about before we got on. And I saw an elk walk across right behind some does, some whitetail does, as I was glassing them from across the little valley there. And I talked to the I guess it was the the National Wildlife Refuge officer. I told him about it, and he didn't believe me. He's like, "No, there's no elk on this property." But lo and behold, the next year they added exotics, including elk, to that list. So yeah, elk down here are considered exotics.
So if it's considered an exotic, it's a non-native species, and you're able to hunt that without having some special tag, right?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the unit you go to. Some units you're allowed to shoot exotics, period, across the board. Whatever that's not native, you can shoot. Some units, some wildlife management areas or refuges specify what you're allowed to take, what you're not allowed to take. And the way they have it written into the rules, they may have written the rules for that unit or that refuge 10 years ago when there weren't exotics there, or they weren't specific types of exotics. So unless that exotic was put on that specific list, or they made a broad general statement, then it's off limits until they go back and revise it. Which was the case when I saw that elk.
That's interesting, because I know like some places out in West Texas, they're actually added to it, because my cousin lives down there. And he's always trying to get me to come out and get a tag. And he's like, "Hey man, if an elk comes through, you could take an elk too. And it's all, you don't even need a tag. It's all part of your hunting license." So, I think that's pretty neat. But so one thing I've noticed about Texas, and God bless Texas, I do love Texas, but, everybody wants you to come down to Texas and hunt. Oh, we've got 1 million hogs. We've got, a huge hog problem. Come on down and hunt it. And then you say, "Okay, yeah, I'll come down and hunt it." And they're good. "Well, for $500, you can hunt it," or something. And I've never seen anything to where somebody has such a problem with something, but yet they're not willing to let it go for free, or have somebody help take the problem off your hands. It's pretty interesting.
It's kind of sad, because I mean, they are such a big problem down here, and just like everywhere they're a big problem. But we have so many of them down here, but they are so highly valuable financially to those ranchers. They can make so much money off hog hunts. So there's that financial incentive for them to continue charging for it. But there are quite a few public properties actually down here that people might not think of Texas as a public land type of place, but there is a surprisingly good amount. You'll get mixed reports from all kinds of people, but I am a very strong advocate of the public land system we have here for what it is. It's a very small percentage, like 1 or 2% of Texas is public, but it's also a really huge state. So we have a couple million acres of public land that is accessible in some way or another. So, and almost all of it has hogs on it. So if you want to hunt hogs, you can come down here. You can do it for almost free. Just buy your license.
So let's kind of talk about that a little bit then. Were you kind of the guy that was just like, "No, I don't want to spend $2,500 a year on a lease," or what was the kind of purpose behind? Because I'm sure there was plenty of public land down in Florida where you hunted and probably could get a deer a day, or I've heard crazy things like that, to where you could almost get a deer a day or something like that. So, I mean, when you came back to Texas, was it like, holy cow, or what was the incentive for hunting the public?
I'm a teacher, so I can't afford not to. So, so just budget. I'm a frugal person by nature. I don't like spending a lot of money. I don't like being catered to. I like the difficulty of certain things in life, and the accomplishment, the feeling of accomplishment that you get from working hard. I've gone on one guided hunt. It was a goose hunt, and it didn't have that feeling. I've hunted private properties a couple times here and there because of invites, and it's fun. It's a different kind of experience. And nothing against any folks who hunt private property or have leases. Just, it's a different type of experience, and it's not generally the type of experience that I am particularly looking for.
Yeah, no, it's funny you say that. The only guided hunt I've ever gone on was a goose hunt as well. It was a snow goose hunt in like western Nebraska, I think it was, out in the middle of nowhere. Drove forever to get there. The only hotel in town had bed bugs. It was like crazy. And this guide, it was, I don't even know the guide's name, but it was like the worst guide ever. They never changed their spreads whatsoever. It was the same spread. The geese were used to flying over it. And, you know, you hear all these stories, right, about like snow geese. Oh my gosh, it's so fun. You could shoot 100 of them in a day, however many you want. You can put a magazine extension on or tube extension on your shotgun and just load it full of shells and just blast all day. Man. So first day we shoot like 5 or maybe 6, and we were the best field. So the best field gets the worst field the next day. So we shot 6. We're the best field, get the worst field the next day. We had like a triple coming in like real low and behind us. And it was actually one snow, and I can't remember what the other species was. It was like a snow, a gray, and something else. And you could shoot the grays and you could shoot the snow goose. And I don't remember what the other one was. So I like leaned behind me, shot, and I dropped the gray, and the guy got all mad at me because it was with the other one, but there was like 15 feet in between that goose and the next goose. But anyway, so he yelled, and him and I kind of had a few words, and I'm like, you put us on the crappiest field. I'm sitting here all day. We're falling asleep. I go and shoot one and drop one, and you're going to get mad at me because I was, you know, however many feet away from this other goose. And needless to say, it wasn't a good time at all.
That's bizarre.
But so that was my kind of one and only guide experience, and ever since then, I'd rather have tag soup, I think, than have a crappy guide for sure.
I'm with you, man, because some of the best hunts I've been on, I've gone home empty-handed. I think a lot of hunters are able to relate to that.
Oh yeah. So like my buddy Johnny Mack, he talks all the time about, you know, replenishing your soul and getting out there and, you know, seeking your own adventure and finding your primal adventure. And every time I go out there, I find that I don't even care if it's like an hour away from my house, something always happens to where there's that magic moment, you know, in the woods, or you're just truly finding something new out about yourself or pushing yourself further, trying to achieve something. And I think that's just awesome the way that works.
Oh, for sure. Always something. Always.
So let's kind of talk about your kind of, I mean, you hunt whitetails and stuff on Texas public land too. So there's no feeders involved or anything like that. How are you going about it? What are you doing?
So most of the public property, no feeders are allowed. There are some draw hunts on certain wildlife management areas where you're allowed to put out feed. But for the vast majority of the public land here, no feed allowed. Now, private property is a whole different story. You can feed all you want, whatever you want. There's no rules on that at all. But I hunt whitetails a lot, especially this past year. I had a lot of extra free time. I was out in the woods more than I have been probably in 5 or 6 years, to be honest. And this is the first year I haven't shot a deer in a really, really long time. So it was one of those years where I put in more hours in the wood, put in more time, did a lot more scouting, but didn't come home with anything this year. So it's kind of interesting. I don't know. It was a good kick to my ego, which I think forced me to look at what I was doing. I was doing a lot of being impatient, I think. I wasn't sitting as long in the tree. I was getting down, doing a lot more walking and like scout hunting, which doesn't really pay off, especially when you got like thick pine woods up here and a lot of brush. You end up bumping a lot of deer, which I did see several deer, but you know, I don't know. I didn't have a good year in terms of putting meat in the freezer for whitetails. Yeah, I was a little humbled by that.
So let's dive into that, because I find that interesting. Yeah. So what drove you to was it just like the anxiousness of trying to find that deer or get one caused you to not, you know, stay longer or sit longer in that spot? Or, I mean, what kind of did that to you?
Well, a combination of different things. There's one area I've been really addicted to that I keep going back to because I saw a buck about 4 or 5 years back there that was like, I'll never see a deer like that again. Like you can go to Bass Pro Shops and look at any deer on the wall, and it's as big as those. It had three main beams, junk all over the place. It was 20 yards from me, and I was already tagged out. So it was. I kept going back there year after year, year after year. I started passing on small deer, which is not in my nature at all. Um, so I kind of got into this funk of that one tree, that one spot. I started hunting that way too much. So this year I started the season off doing that, and then I said, "To heck with that! I'm gonna go just do something totally different and try to find something." And that caused me to do a lot of walking. Um, I shot a couple of hogs this year on stand. If I see a hog on stand, I'm not gonna pass it up. If I see a hog, I shoot a hog. Um, they just need to go, and they taste really good, so I don't mind like scrapping a deer hunt for a hog any day of the week. So I don't know. It's just a combination of those things. Just trying to get out of that funk I've been in the last few years of that one spot. It was paying off. I end up at the end of the year either shooting a doe or a spike or something like that. But I had to peel myself out of there and just go do something else.
So we're gonna jump back to the hog thing because I've got some questions. But like, what was your biggest? I know you said your takeaway was you weren't sitting still, but like, what's your biggest takeaway or your learning experience from that to where next season you're gonna apply that or use it differently or something of that nature?
Yeah, so my big takeaway is to do more pre-season scouting rather than during the season scouting. Um, that I think that's probably the number one factor of me not like actually putting a deer on the ground was me like scouting on the go and not having a really good plan going into the season. So this summer is gonna be a little bit more busy for scouting, and hopefully I'll have spots A, B, C, D, and E ready to go whenever I need to go to them and not find a spot while I'm hunting.
So with that being said, do you do any like e-scouting on the computer or any work like that then to try and narrow it down at least to where you can find some like draws or pinch points or something like that?
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of like draws
Oh
in
yeah,
the
that's
areas
right. You're
I hunt. It's
Houston
pretty
area.
flat.
Yeah.
um, but there's definitely pinch points. There's it could be younger stand of plant of pines that pinch down to a point um, that goes into like a path of thicker brush where they travel from one stand of pines where they're bedding down during the day. So on the yeah, let me rephrase this
Sure.
because I don't think I even understood what I just said. So I tend to hunt the edge of planted pines, like younger stands of planted pines, where they butt up against areas where they've already thinned out the forest, so that there's a lot more underbrush and browse for the deer along those edges. So I'll look for those areas where a planted pine patch narrows down to a travel corridor or to another patch of pines.
Yeah. No. So do you ever like look for bedding and like try and get them coming off the bedding or anything like that, or what do you besides
Uh,
just the transitions like that?
so no, I don't really try to look for beddings. It's not really what I do ever, to be honest. I don't know if that's a bad thing or a good thing. I just look for areas where they're going to be traveling because honestly, I don't know if a bedding area would do any good here. There's so much pressure from all kinds of places. Every side of the forest is getting pressure. So I try to find areas where I know they're going to be traveling, and if someone bumps them, they're going to travel through that area. Hopefully, if they're going from food to bed, they're going to travel through that area. Hopefully.
Nice.
So yeah, I just try to find like a really good travel trail.
What about water? I mean, is that pretty hard to find or get on to sit on?
I'm in I hunt East Texas a lot, so there's not really a lack of water. Even in the hot summer, it rains pretty often. So water is never an issue. And there's a creek that goes through the main forest. I'll say is it's 162,000 acres. It's Sam Houston National Forest. That's where I do most of my deer hunting. It has it's on a lake. Has creeks going through it. Has plenty of hog wallows all through it, and a couple of ponds here and there. So there's no lack of water, and with the rains, there's always puddles. So no, I don't hunt water.
Nice. So needless to say, they've got plenty of water there then. I just kind of find it interesting because once you get out towards like West Texas and stuff like that, I mean, it seems like if you're not on a watering hole or a feeder, you might not even see the animal because you don't know where it's traveling or transitioning or any of that kind of stuff. I always find it interesting because it's so much different. I mean, the concept is the same, right? We're going to try and get in between them to where we know they're going to travel. But like I like hunting big wide open river bottoms and stuff like that, or a little bit of tall grass on some open prairie with some tree lines and stuff that they'll follow. But it's always kind of neat to see what other people and the environments that they're hunting in so much different. Like, I mean, in Florida, I'm sure it was a completely different animal down there. What was that kind of like?
Yeah, I had Florida hunting out figured out, I think, better than Texas. I hunted the swamps a lot. There's a lot of swamps I hunted over there. So it's actually amazing how many deer will just walk through a swamp. They didn't care about the water. Like they would walk knee high, waist high, belly high. They didn't care. But you always want to find some taller, higher spots. It could be a 10-yard little hammock where they're going to end up bedding. So they'll travel through the swamp, but you're always looking for those higher hammocks, oftentimes with palm trees, where they would bed up in the middle of a swamp. And yeah, it was actually a lot of fun because you could hear them just walking through the water. It was you would never have a deer sneak up on you. So it definitely helped me. Yeah, it was actually a lot of fun.
That's would you wear waders, or how would you go in and go after them?
In the later year, like the later part of the year, like that week of winter we would have, like in January, right before deer season ended, we might wear hip waders. But most of the year it's warm enough where you just walk in.
You're wading through the water.
Just wading through the water, or you could have a buddy drop you off on a boat sometimes to certain spots. Like one of the spots we'd come up on the backside of a river, on the backside of this refuge, and it was a short walk in from the river. Usually, it was also a tidal river too, so we'd try to catch it on a low tide if possible. So it was a little bit easier, but it was always wet. You're always wet. There's just no way around it.
How were the snakes and skeeters and all that good stuff?
Yeah, they were what's the word? Active.
Nice.
Yeah, lots of mosquitoes. The first year I moved to Florida, from California, very dry, northern, like Sacramento area of California. Mosquitoes, I didn't really understand what mosquitoes were. I hunted a swamp the first year in Florida, during archery season in September. Oh my God, it was the most miserable experience of my life. I counted on my left hand, I remember it so distinctly, over 200 mosquito bites on the top of my left hand.
Oh.
And that was just like how my body was, because it was 90 degrees still. I was wearing short sleeves. It was a miserable experience. But thermocells came out, and thermocells are the best thing have ever been invented for the hunting woods.
So that's I never used to use the thermocell. Never really hunted too much early season. I was the guy who waited till it was cold, all that kind of stuff. But then I started hunting public land, and everything changed because it's like, wow, nobody's hunting. Football season's going on. Nobody's doing that. I mean, COVID kind of changed things, right? That kind of really, really changed things. But pre-COVID, it was like people, if it was a Saturday or Sunday, you could be a weekend warrior. Nobody was out there. Or a Monday night, because there was football games on. People are at home watching it. They're not going out hunting. They're waiting until the conditions are better, or they're going to be one of those rut hunters.
Yeah.
And it was just awesome. I couldn't believe how I had free reign of the place. But then a few of the spots I was hunting, it was a real wet year, and it was just a swamp. And I'm sitting in the tree, and I'm wearing like base layer and everything, still kind of hot and sweating. And these mosquitoes are getting through my base layer and biting me. And I'm like twitching, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is miserable. How the hell am I going to do this for, however many days I'm going to do it till it gets cold enough to where it kills them off.
That's the worst.
And I'm sitting in the tree stand, and I'm texting a buddy, and I'm like, this is miserable. I think I'm going to get down. I got my face covered, and they're still getting in, and they're buzzing, on my ears. And he's like, dude, just get a Thermacell. And I'm like,
what?
Okay, yeah, you know what? I'm an idiot, right? So I'm in my tree stand, and I prime one up, right? Right on my phone in the tree stand, prime one up. And instantly it just it was just enough morale booster to, and he texts me back, and he's like, yeah, too bad a drone couldn't drop it off. And I'm thinking to myself, you know what? He might be onto something there. We're probably not too far away from that. But yeah, so I mean, it was definitely a game changer. And then last year it was kind of crazy. It was cold enough in October, early season, to where you didn't even have to worry about mosquitoes. But I've got one now, so I've only used it once, I think, since I've had it. But
hang on to it, man. They're lifesavers.
So, I mean, do you use it a lot down in Texas or no?
Oh yeah, I'll use it clear into December down here.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah. This November, December. This year was super hot, but generally November, December, any given weekend, it could be in the 30s or it could be in the upper 70s. There's no rhyme or reason to it. It's just a flip of the coin.
So it's funny that you say that, because we were talking a little bit earlier, and you said this year it was super hot. It was super hot down in Texas until it wasn't, and it literally froze over. So you want to go into that story?
Yeah, sure. So it was super hot, and then it wasn't. Yeah, that cold front came through, and we have zero infrastructure for snow or ice. Like, there's no point of us having it. We would never use it. It would go out of date and rust to pieces before we ever use it. So the cities here, Houston, and any other city around here doesn't own like cold weather like traffic gear. It's just unheard of. So anyway, anytime we get a freeze down here where there's any ice, schools close down. Doesn't matter how much ice it is, schools close down, because we can't have buses on the roads with kids, because we have huge overpasses all over the place. And we don't have salt on the roads, so we close. This year, I don't know what happened. That Arctic front pushed through, and it dumped ice and rain and snow, and it stayed. Like, it's not uncommon for Houston to see snow every 2 years or 3 years, like, to see it. It hits the ground, it goes away in like a minute or two to an hour or two. This year it stayed all day, all the next day, all the next day. There was a good 3 days where the city shut down, the state shut down, power went out, water pipes froze, people were freaking out. No one knows how to winterize anything over here. It was a mess. But I was still out hunting. I was so happy for that weather. I actually had a draw hunt that I was hunting at a wildlife management area. It was like a 45-minute drive, but it took me like 2 hours to get there. It was just slow going on the frozen roads. I was the only car on the road pretty much, but if I went too fast around turns, and
it was pretty icy.
It was slick. But it was a hog hunt that I drew, and I saw so many hogs, and it was just all day long. There were just packs of hogs coming by. I saw some of the biggest hogs I've ever seen, just out in the middle of the day, just feeding. I ended up shooting two hogs, taking one of them home. The other one I left in the woods, because when I opened her up, her liver and intestines were just not healthy looking. They had like really black veins on them running through the intestines and the liver, and had like ulcers all over the liver. So I figured it's just safer to let that meat go to the coyotes. But I ended up bringing a 200-pound sow home and made some sausage out of her. But it was great. It was like 15 degrees when I got there. When I left, it was in the 20s still. It was such a great hunt just because I wasn't sweating, wasn't fighting mosquitoes. It was awesome.
I got to ask you though, I mean, did you have the proper gear? I mean, did you have the right hunting clothes to be going and doing that? Or?
Oh yeah. No, for sure. I do a lot of waterfowl hunting, so like my waterfowl jacket's usually my like cold weather jacket with even for deer hunting. But like I've said, like my brother and I, we've started doing a lot of like big game western hunting also over the last several years. So we've got some good equipment in our arsenal now that we can stay nice and warm.
So what'd you have? I got to ask though, so you're traveling on these roads, Texas roads, icy. Most people can't even get around on them. And so you're driving to this hog hunt. Did you have like provisions or like some kind of survival prep, some type of kit or anything with you in order to sustain life more than a few days if you got stuck somewhere or what?
Yeah, I had my rifle.
Jeez.
No, it was actually supposed to be a 3-day hunt. I came back after 2 days. I came back after 2 days. I don't remember why. I think I just got just over it. You're assigned to one blind, so you're hunting with one blind. Yeah. So it was kind of like, all right, I've sat here enough.
That's pretty funny though. So next time though, you should be a little more prepared. I'm gonna throw that out there so that way, if you did get stranded, you'd be able to survive and make it. Because I don't know, just because you got a rifle, what if you can't make a fire or a blanket to keep warm or whatever? But we could talk more about that later. But anyway, so let's talk about this hog meat. So you get these hogs, right? I've heard different things, like you take it and you put it on ice and you put more ice over it and let the water run through it. But to me, that doesn't seem like an actual practice of how you should be handling meat, letting the water run through it. I don't know. I could be wrong. What do you do?
Yeah, so there's a big difference between how folks down in the South treat their meat and people in the West and the North treat their meat. Yes, bacteria grows in wet conditions. We know this, right? I'm a science teacher. This is true statement. Bacteria like moist places. However, an ice bath is not going to create a situation where bacteria is going to flourish that fast. And when it's 90 degrees, 100 degrees, 80 degrees, you want to get that meat cooled down as fast as possible, because by the time it's getting into your cooler in the first place, it's probably already been an hour or two since you shot that animal, and it's going to be just about as hot as it was when you shot it because of the temperatures. So you want to get the meat cooled down as fast as possible. I have given many hindquarters and shoulders an ice bath, and I've let them sit in ice water for many days on end with absolutely zero consequence to it. Now, I also have, in cold weather, been able to put meat in game bags and hang it, and it's a lot easier to work with, for sure. I think that it's probably more sanitary. I'm sure it has to be. But at the end of the day, especially a hog, you're cooking that meat all the way through. You have to cook it well done. Any bacteria that you did grow in your hog petri dish is going to be killed by your cooking anyway. But for deer, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I'm not the FDA man.
So I'm just kind of curious, because it's like, I mean, and you see some people that they take it and they'll throw it in the back of the truck, and it'll be there for 3-4 hours, right? And then they take it to the processor, and the processor deals with it or whatever. But to me, it's like, man, I don't know, the hot Texas heat, and just I would rather have it in a cooler, but I just don't. The whole concept to me of letting the water run through it, it changes the
Sure.
meat, kind of makes it like a slimier. I don't know.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, the meat in a cold water is absolutely going to be slimier. Yeah, that's good for sure. It's going to be waterlogged. You know, you're not allowing those juices to soak out of the meat and give it like a dry age type of thing. You're not going to get any crust on it. Uh, I mean, if I have a choice, if I was New Mexico elk hunt in December again, I'm hanging the meat every single
Right.
time in the cold. Absolutely. I'm not going to stick it in the ice. I'll put it on top of the ice when I'm done. When I'm done. Yeah, for sure. But you got to get the meat cold regardless. Like, I mean, yeah, like I don't care. I'd rather have wet, cold meat than dry, hot meat
Yeah.
with flies all over it.
Yeah, I'd rather have meat that's somewhat preserved versus rotten meat for sure. So let me ask you though, what's your favorite thing that you've hunted, and the whole public? What was your favorite hunt that you've ever had in Texas on public?
In Texas, I got drawn 2 years ago for a really coveted mule deer tag in the Big Bend area in West Texas.
Yep.
It's actually on YouTube. I put it up on YouTube. I'm not a YouTuber, but I have a couple things on there. It was a really, really cool time. My brother and I went out there. He went with me and videoed it for me. My first mule deer hunt. It was my first mule deer I shot, and it was a really, really cool place to be. It was beautiful beyond imagine. Like it was just a really pretty place to be, and to see deer in that place and to shoot a deer there was just one of those things in my life that I'll be looking back to for a very, very long time. It was a very special moment. There's only 12 tags given out there a year, and thousands of people apply for that tag. So I'll never probably hunt there again. It was a really great experience, and hands down, probably out of all my hunts, probably like the top one or two ever that I've ever been on.
No, that's awesome. So, you were successful.
Yeah,
I'm taking it. So, I mean, was it a decent or trophy in your mind, or what? What
trophy
was your,
in my mind? Yeah, it's a 3x3 with eye guards. He's not a huge buck. He's an older buck. He's got a little Roman nose going on him. Got some grays in his muzzle. He was rutting really hard on a doe, chasing her around when I saw him and when I shot him. So it was a really cool thing to watch. You could hear them running, and their hose on the ground, the rocks, and him grunting, and that doe wanted nothing to do with him, and she was just hauling butt. It was just a really cool situation.
No, that's pretty neat. So I got to ask you one more thing. So do you feel like it's an upgrade going from the Florida deer to the Texas deer because they're so much bigger? It was a joke. It was a little bit of a jab, but
no, not at all. Yeah, I do, because I was just actually thinking about this today. I was wondering if it wasn't for the meat aspect of hunting, would I still hunt? Like if I was not allowed to keep the meat, if I had to donate all the meat, would I still hunt? I was like, man, that'd be a really tough decision, because I really love eating wild game.
Right.
So bumping up from the Florida deer, like a good mature deer in like Central to South Florida would be like 100 pounds. 110 pounds would be a really good mature buck. So like a 3.5-year-old deer would be like 120 pounds maybe.
That's like a yearling.
Oh, it's like a fawn in some places.
It's like
man.
It's like a yearling in the Midwest, or a fawn. Yeah.
Even that, even the deer here, like a big bodied East Texas deer, big good mature buck is going to be like 150 pounds. So a little bit bigger than Florida, but still small compared to y'all. I actually had a buddy come down from Alaska a couple of years back, and he shot a whitetail, and he said it was smaller than the Sitka deer over there in Alaska. And Sitka deers are regarded as being a very small deer
Small, little agile. Yeah.
So yeah, this guy he carries it out over his shoulders whole. I was like, well, you're just showing off, man. I was like, I got a cart. I was like, we'll wheel that thing out. He carries it over his shoulders.
Cam Hanes in it.
Exactly. His name is Ryan Carter. If you want to go on his Instagram, it's the OG of IG. Go give him some garbage.
Nice. That's pretty funny, man. No, that's awesome. So, okay, you mentioned that about that was your most memorable. So what would the next one be that you were going to say if I didn't put Texas in that category?
The New Mexico Elk kind of went on a couple of years ago. Yeah, it was a really fun time. It was super challenging. We shot a bull down in really nasty kind of gorgey area. Steep hike out. We almost died on the first hike out that night, like 2:00 in the morning. We came across a scree field, and yeah, it was a little sketchy. We started going downhill fast and had to leap.
Was it in the Gila?
No, it was way up north in the very northern part of the state, close to Colorado.
Nice.
Yeah, it was a difficult hunt. The pack out was difficult. I mean, for people who are used to it, it probably isn't. But coming from like 0 foot altitude going to 8,000 foot, it makes it a lot difficult, and just not used to it.
I'm probably like maybe 200 feet in elevation higher than you are, so
wow.
I totally get it. I mean,
you're a mountain man to us.
So I'm like 400 and something feet elevation where I'm at. So
yeah, so
I get where you're coming from. And so you were probably close to like the edge of the San Juans or something like, or in the edge of, the San Juans or something like that. I get it. That is rugged country, man. And, if you're coming from the Midwest, man, you better, or even, the South or something, you better be ready for it because it's going to kick your butt. There's no getting around it.
And the crazy part is you can go into that situation being in really good shape. Like you can run, but still like it's
acclimation. Yeah.
It's great. It's just different. Like, and it's the funny part is like I almost met up with a couple different people in Montana last spring. I went there for a bear hunt who live up there. They ended up not being able to make it, but the whole time I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, I know hiking into these places with these people, I'm gonna be stopping 10 times there one time, and I'm like, oh my God, this is gonna be humiliating. But
no, that's funny. Like I did the same thing this past last summer. I went to the Western Hunting Summit and I was there and we did a hike in and it was like 7 miles. And I was totally prepared for it. And something, I don't know if it was like post COVID or something like that, and my lungs just couldn't handle it or what it was, but I had more problems with my lungs, like altitude adjustment, than I've ever had. And it was kind of like, it was messed up. I was like, man, I can't catch my breath no matter what I do. And so kind of cool that, I've experienced it, but hopefully I don't ever experience it again. And you could just get your 2 days of acclimation or 1 day of acclimation and go after it. But I can finally say that, yeah, I've kind of experienced that where I couldn't quite catch my breath and just had to take it easy and take it slow. But yeah, altitude's no joke for sure.
Yeah. But so the way I kind of got over myself, thinking like that was, if they ever came down here, would they be able to stand the heat, humidity, and mosquitoes? So
probably.
Probably.
So sorry to ruin that for you. Because you got to think they'd be breathing a heck of a lot easier than you do on your own turf. So
that's true. That's true. Sorry
to ruin that for you, but I tried thinking like that too. But no, that's definitely probably not the case. No, it's been good. Good conversation. Great talking to you, man. I don't want to keep you up all night. But so you want to tell everybody about the books one more time and where they can find them and where they could find you?
Yeah, sure. So smileoutside.com is the best place to find us. You can order the books directly from there. We do have several retailers across the country. We recently actually got into Cabela's too. So we're at 27 different Cabela stores. But our website is probably the best place. And if you go there, especially for your listeners, we'll give them a promo code, PC15. We'll give them 15% off. And don't forget that at least 50 cents from every single book that we sell goes to conservation organizations that help create, protect, and manage healthy lands, wildlife for the future. So come check us out, and we'd be happy to send some books out to you, and we appreciate y'all's support.
No, it's awesome, man. James, thank you for coming on and sharing, and make sure everybody that's listening, go check it out. Use that promo code and save yourself 15%. So that's PC15. And definitely go check out their books. If you've got kids, I guarantee you they're going to enjoy them, and you're going to enjoy the fact that you are giving them an education and not giving them some kind of false idea of what an animal is, or, a dog that quacks or something goofy. So thank you, James, so much for coming on. Thank you for sharing your hunt experiences down there in the public grounds of Texas, and the awesome books you guys are putting out. So thank you so much.
Awesome, Lucas. Appreciate the opportunity. Have a great day.
You too.
Thanks.
And once again, thank you so much for listening to the Publicly Challenged podcast. I hope you enjoyed the show, and if you did, please subscribe on whatever platform it is you're listening to. Also, if you could leave a review, that would help us out. And you can check us out on Instagram or at publiclychallenged.com. And once again, thank you so much for listening to the show.